I made $2,000 last year by just filing my taxes. Now this sounds like a scam. I know you probably saw the thumbnail and figured this is some kind of Ponzi scheme, but I promise you that it's not. So if you want to know how I made that money, keep watching this video. So here's a few things that we'll cover. Why is it important to file your taxes? How can you file your taxes? And how can you make money off filing your taxes? So let's dive right into it. So let's talk about why it's important to file your taxes. Well, first things first, filing your taxes is a way to get yourself into the financial system. Especially as an international student, when you've come to a new place like Canada, it's important that you find ways to establish yourself into the system, and because the goal is that eventually you want to work here and build a future here. So being in the financial system is really important. Secondly, as a student, you get a lot of benefits when you file your taxes. The government of Canada recognizes that as a student, you need a lot of support, whether it be for your education or whether it be financially, and they make a lot of provisions that you and me can take advantage of. So one way they could do that is by giving you tuition credits, which we'll talk about really soon. And another way they could do that is by giving you a refund back on the taxes that you've paid. So let's talk about both of those things. So if you're a student and you file your taxes, the government of Canada actually recognizes how much money you paid for your tuition over the years that you spent at university. They pull this amount together and give you something called tax credits. So how tax credits work is essentially that every year when you get taxed a certain amount on your income or on your overall profile, it's usually based on some predetermined measures. Now, because those are predetermined measures and each person's case is different, sometimes you might end up overpaying or underpaying your taxes. So in the case that you underpaid your taxes, the government usually says, hey, by the way, we messed up, you actually owe us more in taxes. And when they ask you to pay it back, that's when you can actually use your tax credit to cover that amount. Now, this might not be important to you right now as a student, but once you graduate and you start working full-time and pay a lot more tax than you're paying right now, these credits will actually come in handy to clear those backlogs off. Now, the second part is tax refunds. Now, this is really the more fun part about filing your tax returns. So if you've ever received a paycheck from your employer, you know that the amount of that paycheck is not directly the hourly wage you receive times the number of hours you worked. It's usually slightly less. And it's slightly less because your employer already deducts the income tax you're supposed to pay on the income you're making. So the government of Canada says, you know what, you're a student, you could use this money, so we're going to give this back to you. So at the end of the year, when you file your taxes, the government of Canada says, okay, so it seems that you paid us roughly X amount of dollars in taxes. We're going to send it back and put it back into your bank account. So let's talk about how you can actually file your taxes. So the first route is to go solo and do it yourself, and a lot of students do this. I think the simplest way to do it is probably to head over to Wealth Tax, create your account, and also create your first tax return. Some things you might need are obviously going to be things like your SIN number and any other personal information that can help the government establish that you are who you say you are. Some other things that you will need are a bunch of forms. One form called the T2202 is for your education that verifies how much amount you've paid in tuition to your university. Another form is called the T4. Now the T4 shows not only how much you made, but it also shows how much you paid in taxes. The other thing that might be relevant to our students are scholarships and bursaries. So the government of Canada also recognizes that you might have received scholarships or any grants for your education, and there's another form for that, and that's called T4A. So if you're a student, you can definitely find your T2202 and your T4A on your school's portal, and I would highly encourage you to reach out to your advisor or your administrative representative at the university to help you locate this information. When it comes to the T4, now this is employer specific. So if you've held multiple part-time jobs, you would have to reach out to different employers and ask them for your T4 for that year. Now keep in mind that when you're filing taxes, the time period is January 1st of that year till December 31st of that very same year. Anything that happens after is included in your tax returns for the year after. Now if you're someone who's never filed their tax returns before you can file your tax returns for this year, you would actually have to file your taxes since the time you started at university. Now this can be really painstaking because you actually have to roll back the years, get all the forms and file them in before you can get to your current date. Now this sounds really complicated, and not just this, the entire tax filing process can sound really complicated. But I have a resource for you where all you have to do is just sign up on the day of, present your documents, and have someone file your tax returns for you for free. The UBC Tax Assistance Clinic, or TAGS as we call it, hosts sessions every year during the month of March to help students file their tax returns for free. All you need to do as a student is to head over to their website, which I'll link in the video description, and book a slot. And all you need to do is to take with yourself your T2202 and your T4A forms, which can be found in your school's portal. So go ahead and ask your admissions representative or enrollment services professional, whoever it may be, on where you can find these tax documents. If you're a UBC student, you can find them on the UBC SSC in the finances section. Now coming to your T4, you should be reaching out to your individual employers, asking them to give you your T4 for whoever you worked for in the last year, in 2021. Once you've gathered all your documents and booked your slot, make sure you carry with yourself your vaccine ID and your photo ID on the day off. The clinic is open on Monday to Friday between 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and it's open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday. Now I want to talk about how I made $2,000 last year by filing my tax returns. In 2020, I'd done an internship at a Vancouver-based startup for 4 months. Now, during the course of the internship, the paychecks that I received had already deducted all the income tax that I was paying on my income. And over the 4 months, that amount added up close to $2,000 that I'd paid in taxes. Now, these $2,000 plus change that I'd received also included the small amount of taxes I was paying for my part-time job at UBC Sauder School of Business. Now, when I added up the income tax that I paid while on my internship and for my part-time job, the amount came up to $2,000 in change, which was put back into my account after I filed my taxes. So that's how I made over $2,000 last year just by filing my taxes. Let me quickly just run you by what we talked about in this video. We talked about why it's important to file your taxes, what the process is like and how you can get them filed for yourself, and my own journey of filing taxes and making money. Now, you probably still have a lot of questions you want to ask about this entire process. For that, I would recommend that you check the description of this video, but I'll also send you a link to the UBC Tax Club's Instagram and LinkedIn so that you can fire your questions away. If you do want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like this video. Thank you so much for tuning in to the UBC podcast.